terminologies deal with that. I note as well that there is a portion in the Act which does not compel us to be part of the Social Security Act.
Right.
So, that is something, again, that we'll have to look at and see if it is something appropriate, if we should contribute not only to our pension, but to the Social Security scheme as well.
And I think we do contribute.
Yeah, so those are the things that, we need to look at. Of course, go a little further into it. You look at what we have now, how the House is constituted, my role, let's say the representative, single island-wide representative Jason Bryan, we are elected advisor and elected assistant, in the ministries. We don't carry portfolios, but we have responsibilities, but we are elected, and you compare that to, let's say, in the past, in the recent past, where you would have had an advisor to the Minister of Finance or in the Ministry of Finance who was not an elected member per se. And then when you when you look at the interpretation, basic allowance, what is that? That is all divided. And I believe that allowances that compensation that is given to any elected member really and truly should be divided, whether it's in an allowance and so on and so on. So those are the little things. I don't know if you could capture all of them, and there are a few others that in terms of amendments, or can we repeal, use quite a bit of what is there and move forward. So those are the things that I'm sort of concerned about going forward.
Okay, thank you. And Premier, I know that leading up to today's sitting, we've been having many conversations on this very topic and what we would be moving forward with as an administration over the past few weeks and months. So do you have any thoughts on today's proceedings, any takeaways you want to highlight the discussions as well?
Thank you for that. Good evening to you,
Good
Honourable
evening.
Jose, Honourable Niel, and members of the listening and viewing public. Yes, as Honourable Niel was speaking, and I was nodding my head because he would have identified a number of issues. And so just to give the public a little bit of a backdrop, when we started out on the exercise for the Legislators' Pensions Act, we were primarily focused on making the pension scheme contributory. Currently, it is not. But when we picked up the legislation, and as Honourable Niel said, it's 22 years old. It was done at a time prior to the 2019 constitutional amendment. It was done, and so with the amendment, we no longer have nominated members. Today, we have ministerial assistants who are also members of the House of Assembly. They hold portfolios in our government, etc. And so as we started to go through the legislation, we realized that there were a number of things that were no longer applicable in today's context. When the act was first created, it allowed for a retirement at 55 years.
Yes.
And now it's at 60, right? And so those provisions no longer are applicable in today's context. And so the question is, should we just limit our review to the Pensions Act just simply to making pensions contributory, or do we look wholesale at the Act? Now, if you're going to go into something, you're going to make an amendment, you realize that there are certain provisions that are no longer applicable, then I think it makes sense to do a wholesale revision.
Clean it all up.
And so that is what we did when we conducted the exercise, and I once again want to thank the Honourable Shelley Rogers-Webster for taking the lead. It's not her ministry. It would ideally fall under Home Affairs. But because it was something that she was so passionate about, something that she had worked on even before becoming a Minister of Government, she would have willingly taken on the role of taking the lead in terms of bringing it to fruition. And so we have worked along together. Once she provided the framework in terms of recommendations and suggestions, we all met. Now, as Honourable Niel would have said earlier today, he would not have been present. But you can hear from his position that he has very strong views in terms of the changes that need to be made. And so while it is that the rest of us moved ahead because he was off island on government business, we took the time, we went through the Act, we still need to have his involvement, because his perspective as being the grandfather of the House is important. His views are important. In fact, every member of government's views every member is important to us. And so we cannot and we would not proceed without having the full scope of all of the views that we can look at, we can collate, and we can decide what we can move ahead with and what we can. Now, in the meantime, while we finalize all of the additional work in terms of looking at the provisions and seeing what we want from what we don't want and what we should amend, we've actually gone ahead and through the PS of Finance and my ministry, we have engaged the clerk of the House and also the pensions office to inquire as to how this would look. What would this look like? If the elected members are going to now contribute to the pension plan, and what is the form, what is the best form that could be used to implement such a plan? So there's a lot of work that is going on. I know that some people think, okay, well, you say it and it happens. It doesn't work like that, because if you're going to do something, you're going to do it correctly. Then you're going to have to take the time and go through the steps. And even though we ourselves would love to snap our fingers and say, here you go, right? We campaigned on this, we delivered, in speedy time, what is the product that we're going to have? And so we made a decision not to simply focus just on making the pension contributory, but the wider scope in terms of looking at the act, understanding the implications. And a lot of it is all legalese. Right? So I myself struggled, going through the wording and trying to remember the mutatis mutandis and all of these provisions in there, right? And so it's time that we revise it. We make it user friendly, because currently it's not user friendly, and you need 2 or 3 different interpretations.
Right.
And so legislation shouldn't be like that. Legislation should be easy to read.
Right.
And so if we're going to make those changes, then we make it user-friendly. We make it easy for people to pick up and understand the provisions of the law.
Just to add to that, one other area that we really and truly, will have to pay some attention to, the notion that we're going to make it contributory. Are we going to use contribute towards, let's say, the scheme that the civil servants, the public servants are contributing towards? Because I believe that would create another issue in the sense that the Honourable Shelia Rogers mentioned today about civil servants who would have contributed while they were public servants and become legislators. If you're going to contribute towards that particular fund when you're a public servant, and you're going to contribute towards the same fund when you are a legislator, how do you, let's say, treat with having your pension as a civil servant because you contributed, and having your pension as a legislator because you contributed, without sort of combining them and so on and so forth?
So, because technically you could be pensionable as for your work in the civil service without being pensionable as a legislator.
Right.
So it introduces a lot of gray areas.
And vice versa, you can be pensionable in both. So how would you, so there's some work to look at. And as I said, we are not just looking at the Pensions Act for ourselves, so to speak, but for future parliamentarians and legislators, because the act that was passed in 2004, no one in the House of Assembly, including your humble servant, because I came in 2005, were part of it. So the folks who would have, passed this through legislation would have done it, and we are passing now for another generation. The other thing, I would take it directly from the Legislators Pensions Act, it's Section 16. Social Security Act not applicable to awards under this act. It is something that I guess voluntarily, you do it voluntarily. I would have contributed to Social Security, I believe, from 2010, coming up. But it says here, the provisions of the Social Security Act shall not apply to or in respect of any pension or other award payable under this act. So
what does that mean?
Exactly. What does that mean? So, those are the sort of things that we'll have to look at and see where we are going from there, because we wouldn't want to come back to the Pensions Act, every year, every term, and so on and so forth, because next thing the public will have a right to judge us and say we are suffering from the mirror syndrome, because when we look in the mirror, we don't see anybody else, and so on. And we, as parliamentarians, know that we've been fortunate to be in these positions because of the people, but not ourselves.
Completely agree. And Premier, I think you touched on something very important earlier when you said that we would all love to be able to snap our fingers and make these changes instantly. And I just wanted to highlight a part of the discussion today, because based on some posts we saw on social media, I do think some members of the public might feel like we went there to actually debate the legislation today and might be thinking that this has actually been enacted. So for clarity, though, what we would have debated today is a motion to the House. So coming out of that debate, the House has now resolved that we are committed to making the necessary amendments to the legislation that previous administrations haven't by the end of the year. So that's one thing I just wanted to clear up.
Yeah. And when you mention previous administrations, previous administrations, of which I was a part of.
Successive administrations,
and we didn't do it. So we just want to put that out there. We're not blaming the past administration, while you could, and they must take some responsibility for it as well.
Indeed.
We all want to take responsibility for it, but the time is now.
Yes, and to pick up on your point, Honourable Josie, the motion was not contentious. No. The motion itself, because as was expressed earlier today, we had started working on this before the motion came to the House. And there are some persons that are very suspicious in terms of how it is that after all of these years, after successive administrations, at the time when this administration is actually working on revisions, sat in meetings, had discussions, sent instructions, etc., all of a sudden up comes this motion before the House before we were able to complete our job. And so it leaves a lot of questions, but the point is that all of us feel that we need to be able to move forward and make the pension contributory. This administration is the first administration that has taken steps to do so. And we'll complete the work. But to pick up on something that one of the members of opposition said today, that they weren't aware. And perhaps it would be ideal if they simply ask a question.
Indeed.
What do you think about contributory pension? Because I would have not received any communication from any member of the opposition. I don't think any member of government did. If a question had been asked, what do you all think? Do you think that you should have pensions be made contributory? And we all agree. Is there really a need to bring a motion before the House? And
Not
so
necessarily.
had you had a discussion, if we're really supposed to be on the same side in terms of this issue, then there would have been no need to bring a motion, because you would have understood, had you decided to ask a question first before you run to the House with a motion, you have found out that there's actual work, and you could have been actually, you could actually be part of it, to be included, to be able to submit your views, and they can still do so. But to take the approach of bringing a motion to the House on something that we have already been engrossed in, involved, and working on, just makes it seem as if it was a political maneuver.
I understand.
Or to describe it, as the Honourable Kyle said, to be politically grandstanding or something like that he did mention.
Well, one thing I can say is I too didn't get any correspondence or any questions about this specific matter, but it's not unusual for a member of the opposition to pick up the phone and simply ask a question.
Right.
Just over the weekend, I gave one of the opposition members an update on CCTV because they wanted to know progress.
Right.
If it were the case that we weren't on the same page, then I would understand the motion coming.
Right.
But,
Right.
But I think the Premier, really and truly maybe a bit humbled about it, but you should take credit for leading an administration that has decided to do something about the Legislators Pensions Act. And I said this because as you mentioned, I'm the grandfather of the House. I would have been in the House under different administrations. And at that particular point in time, we didn't do the necessary amendments. There were administrations from 2005 to 2010. Again, as the member mentioned, AUF, which I was a part of. From 2010 to 2015, the AUM administration, AUM, did nothing about it. 2015 to 2020, again, being the AUF administration, we didn't do anything about it, didn't bring it to light. 2020 to 2025, the APM administration didn't do anything about it, even though they are the ones who brought the motion today. We are here now, 2025 to 2030, a year and a half in, and the administration has already been working on it and was able to really and truly deliver and defend themselves with respect to the work that has been in progress, in train, to the legislation's Pensions Act. So
I think that
kudos to you, Madam Leader, and to the entire team.
I think that this is a good pivoting point, because I wouldn't necessarily want to be at the helm having to lead a country through such volatile times. And also being discussed in the House of Assembly today was the extension of the 3 fuel volatility relief measures.
Yes.
And tell us about that, Premier, for the persons who may not have been paying attention to the House. What are the 3 measures? How will they impact the lives of Anguillians and businesses? And what impact are we protecting the people from?
Right, and so just to give a little bit of backdrop, I think in about March or April, and since the war in the Middle East, we've been paying close attention as an administration. We all have been watching the news. We've been looking at the cost of fuel, the effects on the global market, etc. And in about April or so, we realized that we're going to have a problem in terms of the cost of fuel if we did not take measures here in Anguilla. Now, fuel affects everything. We have our vehicles, we have our electricity. Many of us in this day and age have air conditioning units at home. We have our refrigerators, etc. Everything that runs on power. We have the grocery stores. They have huge electricity bills, and they have to pass on those costs because they can't absorb every cost that they have to take on. And so, if we allowed the cost of fuel to go up in the way in which actually went up over the past few months, and we did not take steps, we would have had a problem here in Anguilla. And so when you talk about stability in the country, when you talk about our tourism sector, everything would have been impacted because fuel touches and concerns every area of our lives. And so we decided that in order to provide stability, to ensure that we can take care of not just the most vulnerable, but take care of Anguillians as a whole and the people of Anguilla, we needed to implement certain measures. So we looked at, and this is as an administration, we looked at a number of things. We looked at removing the customs service charge, as well as the import duties on fuel and gas, on diesel and gasoline. We looked at the removal of, or the capping of the electricity.
The fuel surcharge?
The fuel surcharge, thank you. Fuel surcharge at ANGLEC. So that anything over 42 cents for businesses and homes would be capped. And for hotels, for those in the hospitality sector, 63 cents per kilowatt hour. So we provided that as well. And then we also looked at one other thing I'm missing, the CIF, moving from cost insurance free to free on board. And that has shown a tremendous impact. So what we did, usually for persons that may not be aware, when you import items into the country, it is cost insurance freight that is calculated as part of the duties, customs. In order to provide the relief, because the cost of shipping will have gone up, insurance will have gone up, and so the cost of regular supplies coming into the country will have gone up as a result. What the government of Anguilla decided to do is to remove insurance and remove freight as a basis for calculating. So shipping and insurance were taken off the table so that we moved over to a free on board where we're charging for the cost of the goods itself. And what we've seen over the 3 months is there's been a tremendous uptick in people importing into the country. Now everyone has this 3-month time frame in their minds, and they're saying, what? We have never had this situation before. I can bring in my goods, I can buy a vehicle, I can do all the things I wanted to do on import and not be charged customs duties on the shipping and insurance. So it is a benefit. And so what we've seen is that there's been an uptick. And so the numbers for this year, the April and May, have actually been, May and June, sorry, have actually been higher than May and June importation last year, 2025, compared to 2026. But in addition to that, we've been able to, through that measure, stabilize the cost of goods as well. Now, costs have gone up somewhat. We are struggling. We have been struggling with cost of living, not just in Angola, but throughout the world. But as a result of the measures that we've implemented, we've actually boosted additional activity into the country. So persons have been contacting, I think, all of us. Are you going to extend the free on board, the measures for another 3 months? And people have asked more about that than even the fuel surcharge on the electricity. And so people have said, are you going to extend? We need for another 3 months at least, et cetera, et cetera. Today, we passed in the House of Assembly an extension for all of those measures. So for the cost insurance free to free on board, that has been extended by another 3 months.
I'm sure the people of Angola will be very happy to hear that.
I think people were eagerly awaiting that information, and so we passed it in the House of Assembly today. We also would have continued the relief of removing the customs fee, as well the service fee, as well as the import duty on gasoline and diesel, and that has allowed a decrease in costs at the tank. And when you purchase like your cooking gas, etc. So I think the people of Angola are in a good place in terms of being in a country such as Angola at a time like this, where the government of Angola is able to pass on that kind of relief and to absorb the difference, because the government of Angola is taking a loss in terms of what we are capping and what we are foregoing for the sake of the people. And that's why we were elected, to put people first, to provide ease, to see what we can do to address the cost of living issues that we have in the country. And so I'm very excited that today we were able to pass that in the House of Assembly. There was no objection from any side. And so
I found it quite interesting that when we first introduced these relief measures to the House of Assembly, we heard a lot from the opposition about this 3-month window. And we did say it was subject to review. As a responsible government, you need to keep assessing the situation as it's so volatile. But I found it interesting today that when they were brought again after the assessment and review for a further 3-month extension, we heard nothing whatsoever about the 3 months. Tell us a bit about some of the factors that are considered. How would the ministry have looked at the relief measures? What factors would they take into consideration to determine whether to extend it by another 3 months? And what are some of the factors they would have to consider before deciding to make, if some of them permanent?
So
there's another question there. When I listened to the Premier outlining, the benefits and so on. Prior to the initial ease, I should say, on the people of Angola, there was a lot of talk, from the opposition about why don't you give the folks $500 that they would have done before, and so on.
We
and so
far
forth.
exceeded.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is what I want to get out there, in terms of the the expenditure, the overall benefit. I believe that $500 would have been just a household, rather business were excluded, and so on and so forth. So there must be a ripple effect in terms of, really and truly what the public would have gained from that.
My recollection is that the $500 relief was done on electricity, and that was done for, I think, on 3 occasions. And it was to the tune of $3 million EC, based on what the former Premier would have indicated when he made his announcements. We have far exceeded that. And we far exceeded that because we haven't only, the $500 was limited to households. We have applied this cap to households and businesses and the hospitality sector. And so we've done it not just for 3 months, but now for 6 months. So at the end of this 6 months, and when I reported on the 3 months in terms of the total expenditure for the import duties that we were waiving, as well as the fuel surcharge, we were totaling, and the CIF to FOB, we would be waiving $9 million in the first 3 months. Today I would have reported, I can't recall the number offhand in terms of what we would be at a loss for the next 3 months.
Right.
Yeah.
I believe it's in the ballpark around 14, 15 million.
Okay, I can't recall because I quoted a number of figures during my presentation.
Right.
But but the point is that we far exceeded, right? And it's all for the benefit of the people.
Right.
So while the government doesn't obtain this tax revenue that we would normally obtain, we are actually providing something greater. We're providing that stability for the people of Anguilla to allow them to continue to survive, to take care of themselves and their families.
So just going back to the former question about some of the factors that are considered.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, the Honourable Niel distracted me.
I'm sorry.
As grandfather of the house, he has his privileges.
I'm sorry. I just wanted that point to be to be highlighted because some folks would say, "Well, I didn't get my $500," but when you look at the grand scheme of things, there's a lot more than the $500 that each and every consumer would have benefited from.
That is absolutely correct. I want to place on record my thanks to the Consumer Protection Unit because they would have undertaken an extensive review in terms of the impact. And so between the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Economic Development, they work together to be able to put together the information in terms of what the impact has been. And we will have received the report, but I believe it's going to come to Executive Council. A formal presentation is due to be made on Thursday. In relation to that presentation or that report that was made. But from all accounts, what they've identified is that yes, the cost of the amount of imports during that period of time has increased. The waiver of the electricity, etc., and the CIF to FOB, that to some extent it has been transferred to the average person. We do not have the type of detailed assessment to ascertain whether or not all of the costs have been passed on, let's say, through the retail sector. And that's something that we have to look at. We also don't have a full assessment in terms of through customs because of the way in which their programming is set up. And so over the next 3 months, we'll continue to do some assessments. We'll fine tune what we need. But from all accounts, it appears that the measures that we've implemented have done well. They have exceeded our expectations. The loss that we were anticipating was actually less. And that is because, especially from moving from the CIF to FOB, the loss was less because of the imports. The extent of the imports was so much more that they almost sort of supplemented for that. And so the question moving forward is, some persons, I think all of us have gotten a question, well, should they remain permanent, etc. These are all measures, and I want to highlight that the government is taking a loss over these 6 months in terms of our revenue. We're doing so for a particular purpose, to assist the people of Anguilla, but at some point in time, we cannot continue to maintain it indefinitely. Because if we maintain it indefinitely, we run the risk of eroding the tax base. So that's the kind of assessment that we now have to undertake. To what extent is the tax base eroded? Are we concerned with respect to that? Can we, and is it sustainable? So for instance, everyone's talking about the amount of importations that are taking place right now, the imports. If it is, it becomes permanent. Would it remain as busy
at that high level?
To the level that it is now, because persons are bringing in things to capture the benefit of the period of time within which we've given. But if you extend it out for the full year,
I think that's a very good point, Premier.
And so these are the kinds of assessments that need to be done over the next couple of months. So we have to, it has to be based on data. So it's a data-driven analysis in terms of where we go once we come through this period. But I can certainly say in terms of the fuel surcharge, it is a significant amount of money that the government is taking on. And the fuel surcharge is one of those relief measures that may not be able to be sustained indefinitely in the same form. And so what we may have to start looking at is a gradual decrease in terms of the tapering off in terms of the extent of relief that's being provided. And we're paying attention to what's happening in the Middle East. We all saw that while it is that there was a ceasefire and there were supposed to be agreements that were signed, we still seem to be at war. And I say we because the whole world is impacted by what is happening. And so we're paying keen attention. And even after it ends, we understand that for some period of time, we are going to still feel the effects of what is happening over in the Middle East. And that is tied into the work that we're doing with renewable energy.
Right.
So I think, Minister, that I have to put you on the spot.
Right. I was about to do that.
Because we can't talk about one without talking about the other.
I'm just about to say, it sounds like I'm going to have to come back on Just the Facts with Honourable sometime soon.
Yeah, I was just about to say, when you mentioned, a tapering off of the fuel surcharge and stuff like that, it morphs right into the renewable energy and appeal to the consumers, in terms of energy conservation and so on.
So while the Honourable had to switch his hats today, you're going to have to switch your hat.
Well,
so Honourable Jose, tell us about what is happening in the renewable energy space.
Well, ANGLIC is continuing to aggressively push towards renewable energy transition. I speak with the CEO on a weekly, sometimes daily basis about how we can get things moving, and they are making significant progress in terms of setting up the project management unit and getting things going. But in terms of the consumption practices, the same way you say people are shipping more now during this period as compared to last year, the year before, as a result of the FOB change. It seems that internationally, even though we're in a global energy crisis, we're also consuming a lot more now. And while we understand that these are the hotter months of the year, so naturally you would expect the consumption to go up. What we are seeing when we look at the data is, despite more and more people coming off the grid, more and more people going independent with their solar systems, we are having significantly more consumption today than we are having back then. So I do think it's important that we appeal to the people of Anguilla and get them to be a bit conscious about their consumption patterns. Because one of the negatives, Parsons say, if you continue supporting the public at the level that they're at, you're essentially spoiling them into believing that government is not taking the full brunt, or that this is an indefinite situation, which surely it's not. So we're going to continue to work with ANGLIC to continue pushing aggressively so that we can bring down the cost of fuel, the cost of electricity. I can say that we're hoping to see the trend in the fuel surcharge continue, because it has dropped based on the last recent assessment, which has given us a bit more of a buffer in terms of the money we have to put into offsetting it. But I do have to appeal to the people of Anguilla. Don't be leaving home with the AC on all day if you know nobody in the house, because at the end of the day, it comes from government, and ultimately government is the people's money. So you're still paying for it one way or another.
Right, yeah.
Human nature is such that, when you look at the Consumer Affairs report, which speaks to the increase in importation. I look at it as similar to a sale. When there's a sale, we go in and take advantage.
Whether you need it or not.
Yes, of the opportunity. And similarly, in terms of the fuel surcharge, at some point in time, the sale. If it's 50% sale now, it probably will be 20% later, the tapering off and so on, so that we'll be able to do that, so.
Yeah, and so, to pick up on your point, I think that all of us, when we walk through our house, you see a light on in a room that's not being used. Air conditioning the AC is running, and someone who was there left. Fans are running, and
in government offices too.
And in the government offices, although I have been paying attention, I've seen that there has been a change in behavior, certainly at least where I am. Okay. So you guys need to pay attention where you are as well. But yeah, so I think that we all have to be cognizant and pay attention and say, okay, you might think that it doesn't matter, but it does. And so when you're leaving a room, when your children are leaving a room, you have to say, turn off the light, turn off the fan, turn off the AC, etc., and help to conserve, because government is paying for that. So when it's being burned and there's no one in the room, etc., with government capping the cost, we're actually paying more than we need to. And when we pay more than we need to, it ensures that we actually have to taper off sooner rather than later because of the amount that we're spending.
It also means we can't invest in other places or other areas that we would like to invest on behalf of the people of Angola.
Yes.
So it does have knock-on effects.
Exactly.
But switching back my hats now, Premier, you would have recently attended the 51st regular meeting of the CARICOM heads of government.
Yes.
And although Angola is an associate member,
Yes.
it was truly a proud moment to see you standing up shoulder to shoulder with all the leaders around the region. Is there any news coming out of that regular meeting that the people of Angola should be aware of?
Yeah, so let me say this was my second CARICOM meeting, and it was the changeover from the Prime Minister of St. Kitts Nevis to the Prime Minister of St. Lucia. And so it was very interesting. It was, the opportunity to be able to network and to meet and to speak with other leaders in the region it's something that you can't take for granted. And so I was very happy to have been there, to have been part of the conversations that were taking place. And so even though as associate members, we cannot vote as the independent countries, but we certainly have the opportunity to be able to express views, etc. And so there are a number of things. What's also important is that as a region, there are a number of things that impact all of us, whether you're overseas territory, whether you're an independent country, climate change, gun crime and violence. What was a hot topic, both at the CARICOM meeting as well as the Monetary Council meeting that I attended in Dominica after, is the issue of intra-regional trade. We all know that there are certain countries in the region that produce more of one thing than another. And so the question is, how do we create the ability to move between our islands, the cargo, the produce, etc. Because we're all not growing the same thing, right? And so, I believe in Trinidad, they are now launching what is considered to be a fast ferry to service that part of the region, Trinidad, Barbados, etc. And the vision is to look at another fast ferry to feed the middle region, and then another fast ferry to feed the northern region. And so the timing of that, I think, has not been pinned down as yet, but it is the beginning of understanding and moving towards the need to be able to trade in our region and rely less from imports from outside the region. And so I was very happy. The other thing as well that has been discussed has been travel, intra-regional travel. And one of the persons who accompanied me on that trip, it took her practically a day to get to where we were in St. Lucia, and like a day and a half to get back home. And so the question is what can we do to be able to improve travel in our region? There are some suggestions that are coming up, and I think that the countries are going to have to look at it and see whether or not this is something that they want to embark on. But certainly to be at the table to have these and other discussions, regional security, that's something that's big because there is a RSS, and so there's a clear collaboration among all of the countries, and to be a part of those discussions is very important, because even if there are areas where we cannot participate, so for instance the free movement of people, there's certain that being at the table and being a part of the discussions allows us to be able to ascertain where we are in our own space and what can we do to be able to benefit from some of the things that are happening, or whether or not from our brothers and sisters close to us. So for instance, in our case, we have St. Martin, French and Dutch next door. St. Kitts and Nevis is very close, Antigua, and Montserrat. What is it that could be done in this part of the Caribbean to be able to help to move goods around? And the other big thing as well, as a part of the climate change discussion, is the move towards renewable energy and geothermal. And we're very impressed with Dominica and the progress that they have made in terms of their geothermal plant. And so they're well underway. I think they're actually already servicing a certain sector, I believe by 20%. And they want to include, to go up to about 40%, I think, over the next immediate term. St. Kitts Nevis is also looking at geothermal as well. And then you have Antigua that's looking at solar. We're looking at solar. And so you see throughout the region that the islands are doing different things. Every country is doing something different, but where there may be a collaboration. So for instance, can Dominica feed another island in terms of geothermal? You know, the countries near to it. And so those are the types of discussions that are taking place. Collaboration among our brothers and sisters in the region. And so it's very important to be at the table, to be a part of those discussions.
Yeah.
Very happy to hear
But
that.
there is thank you very much for the update. I'm sure that you may not be aware of an editorial that is out there. Someone just sent it to me and asked me, you know, to take a minute, you know, to read some of it. It describes you, Madam Premier, as the quiet lioness. Why the Caribbean is taking note of Premier Cora Richardson Hodge. It says that the strongest leader is the one who dominates every headline, responds to every critic, turns every issue into a public spectacle, right? The strongest leader is not one who does that, right? It says that history has proven otherwise. Some of the most consequential leaders have understood that real strength does not need constant validation. It is found in character, conviction, and consistency. That is why Premier Cora Richardson Hodge is emerging as one of the Caribbean's most compelling leaders. That's not from me. It was sent to me.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
And we thank you for representing us in the region, you know, and from an editorial.
Yeah. As you spoke about it, it just took me back to elections, you know, and all the statements about, you know, questions as to leadership, et cetera, et cetera. So that I'm happy to
So
hear.
we're proud,
those words, right? So I want to thank the author, right? And thank you for bringing it to the fore.
Someone just sent it to me and said, you know, make sure that your viewers, some of them may not have been privy to the editorial, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So I think that all of us as a team, we believe in the same principles. We believe in putting in the hard work. We believe in delivering on our mandate. We believe in treating people with respect, because you don't have to be disrespectful to get what you want done, right? And so when you keep that at the forefront of your mind and you focus on the work that you have to do, it falls into place. And I want to take this opportunity to express appreciation to the team as well. Honourable Niel, Honourable Josie, and the other members who aren't here this evening, because you know, it's all of us work together. We work across departments, we work across ministries, we collaborate. Yes, we fight maybe like husbands and wives fight, brothers and sisters. And at the end of the day, it's all for one goal, and that is to deliver for the people of Anguilla. So I am happy that that the team appreciates my leadership, and I appreciate the team that I have as well.
Yeah. But you see, Premier, we all are adults and we all have different and very strong opinions with respect to just about every matter.
Especially you. Especially you.
With respect to anything that, any matter that we are, but it takes a real leader to really have, you know, a team with different views, different abilities, you know, different expertise, you know, to really and truly, you know, bring it together so that, you know, it's a teamwork, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know, it's, of course, working together. It's not always, you know, milk and honey. You know, sometimes there are tough decisions. You know,
Yes.
we have to agree to disagree, and you know, it's not one way or the highway. It is a collaborative effort, and as a government, if we succeed, all of us will. And you know, if we have to take the punches, we will take them and share them as well. You know, so again, you know, and it's clear that you are making inroads. With 18 months, it's 18 months since we've been elected.
Why? How long has it been?
it
No, I don't think it's 18
I don't think we reached there yet.
No, not a year and a half
June.
yet.
Maybe it's longer to you.
So, let's say 14, 15 months in office, and if you're making these inroads in Caribbean presentations and leadership,
imagine by 2030 or 2035.
We're proud of you, and Anguillians in general should be proud of your leadership as well.
Thank you.
So, Premier, before I go over to the senior ministerial advisor and ask a few questions on health, you also had the opportunity to make an announcement on your recent trip?
Yes, so after the CARICOM meeting, I flew to Dominica for the ECCB Monetary Council meeting, and there was a handover there as well. And so the Prime Minister of Dominica, PM Roosevelt Skerritt, has taken over the Monetary Council. And we also had the opportunity to unveil the new EC notes. And I was very proud to be able to make the announcement, the unveiling on the $10 note. And the likeness of the Honourable James Ronald Webster on that note. And so for each of the bills, there were 2 persons who were featured. And so on the $5 note, there were 2 persons, one from every ECCU. Country,
member state.
Right, member state, and so there were 2 on the $5, 2 on the 10, you know, and so on up to the $100. And so the Honourable James Ronald Webster's likeness would have been featured on the $10 bill, and it was really an exciting opportunity because you got not only to listen to the statements that were made by the governor of the ECCB in relation to your selection, but also for the selection of the other countries as well. And so it was a learning experience to sit down there and to listen to what is, you know, St. Lucia, you know, who is it that they revere. I mean, we know in St. Kitts who it would have been, you know, and I would have jokingly said to the Prime Minister of St. Kitts Nevis, I'm glad that the 2 weren't on the same bill.
No.
Because that would have been a different conversation.
I was actually wondering if it's better that the 2 of them were on the same bill, because now you also have to look at the other perspective, whose value is higher on the note.
Well, there you go. You know, and then you know, of course, the difference. You know, the questions are so, okay. Well, how did this person get placed on this, and the other person get placed? You know, we would not have been part of those discussions. But I can tell you that on the $10 note, the Warspite, which is the Anguilla sailing ship, I think it was the former Chief Minister Emil Gong's, his ship. And that is still displayed on the EC $10 bill. So from my perspective, it made sense that if the Warspite is on the $10 bill, that you would have the likeness. And it may have been the case for all of the other bills as well. You know, however they were displayed, if they represented a particular country, then the face of the Queen would be replaced by the face of our leaders in the region. And I think that it's a significant moment in time for us to be able to recognize those persons and to have them displayed on our currency. And I want to take this opportunity to thank the family of the Honourable James Ronald Webster, because they would have submitted the consent. They would have agreed to have his likeness placed on the note. But in addition, this year is a celebration of his 100th birthday. And so it is almost as if, you know, the chips are falling into place to allow this to be revealed and unveiled during the celebration of his 100th birthday.
I think it's very fitting and poetic indeed. So thank you for that, Premier. Honourable, I want to shift gears a bit into health. You've recently achieved a very important milestone, one that I believe it's a first time for Angola, where you're now able to offer diabetes and hypertension medication to the general public free at cost for those who are uninsured. Tell us a bit about how we got there and some of the successes and challenges you have around that program.
Well, First of all, I must thank Gary and Connie Sharp, the owners of Healthcare Logistics, for their continued and generous contributions to Anguilla. They were the ones who purchased the mammography equipment and the 5-year maintenance, parts and labor cost for us that is installed at the Welch's Polyclinic. We're doing some final works now with it to make sure that we have the equipment up and going and fully utilized. GE training and engineering experts will be on island August 11th, I believe it is, for 3 or 4 days training. The staff here, said staff would have done training at GE facilities and the DR as well. So we're getting our operators, adequately trained in that area. That was the project that the Sharps embarked upon for 2025. In 2026, they were looking for another project to finance, and during the discussions, diabetes and hypertension, the non-communicable diseases, came up. It led into a discussion where insurance coverage, the percentage of the population that is covered by insurance. And let me put on record that national health insurance is not far-fetched or is not in the back burner, but we are making sure that when we do address the national health insurance, that we have a service that we will insure. So the idea came out of the concept where there are individuals in Anguilla who they do not have any sort of insurance coverage. They are less than 60 years old, 70 years old, because if you're 70 and above, you'll be covered under the Senior Shield. And while at the Senior Shield, we will be working, once we have this program up and going and we go into phase 2 and 3, we're going to look at the Senior Shield as well, and to make that much more applicable to individuals who would have to pay 100% at the private pharmacies. So we're working on it. This opportunity for the MedAccess help us to include the 2 private pharmacies along with the government pharmacy, something that was not done with the Senior and Junior Shield. We can politicize it all we want, but at the end of the day, I don't believe in politicizing healthcare. So I will leave that there until another time. I want to thank the owners of Paramount and Niel Pharmacy for willingly and so ably getting involved in this program. As I mentioned, 70 years and younger, under 70, and you don't have any insurance coverage at all, right? This program basically is designed to assist you. We didn't have any data. We were not able to say, well, okay, there is 150 persons in Anguilla who are either diabetic or hypertensive and are uninsured. Now, we're not talking about underinsured. We're talking about uninsured, no coverage at all, right? So these are the folks we are trying to capture. So far, there is probably about 150 persons who would have submitted application. There's over 100 that have been approved. A number of them would have utilized the card, the MedAccess card, to get medication. The pharmacies will invoice, the Treasury on a monthly basis. We started it off on June the 15th, so the 2 weeks, the latter part of June would have been just invoiced last week. I will get the information tomorrow as to how much each pharmacy, the private as well as the public pharmacy, would have done. But the feedback that I have been getting from the general public who would have accessed the program is very positive. They're very thankful for it. Of course, we're looking at it in totality because there are a number of individuals who are over 70 years old and would have been given cards as well. I think there's been a bit of misunderstanding in terms of eligibility and so on. So we're working now to fine tune that. We are not, let's say, excluding anyone, but we want to capture those who don't have any means at all in terms of coverage. Because there are some patients who their children, would assist them in getting their monthly medications and so on. Some of these children would have their own families and other things to do, but our parents, we are not going to leave them out of the door. So these are the folks who we are trying to capture. So we are looking at it. We are looking at it quite keenly, and it is a program that has a number of phases to it. Once we identify, let's say, the quantum or the number of individuals who are uninsured, then we are looking at what we call supplies, because there are a lot of supplies out there that could test your glucose without having to stick a finger. You can put patches on. There are all sorts of, I call them gizmos, that you can put around your wrist that can monitor your blood pressure as you go throughout your daily stuff and feed it back into computers and stuff like that. Feed it back into so that you can monitor it and so on and so forth. Will assist in terms of monitoring or regulating the doses that you would have for hypertension or diabetes and so on and so forth. So that would be in phase 2. Phase 3 of the program would be assisting those who are, let's say, underinsured, because there are some individuals who may be diabetic and hypertensive and may have cardiac issues or other rheumatoid or coagulatory issues and so on, who are also on medication. But because this is specific for just diabetes and hypertension in phase 1, so we're looking at a broader picture. But we're doing it in phases so that when you compile the data, the contributors, the shops, would have an idea as to how much was expended, for a year, so that they will be able to, make their adjustments and so on and so forth. So it's the program, and I'm appealing to the general public. Phase 1 is to cover those individuals who are less than 70 years old and they have absolutely no insurance at all.
So if one of these individuals are at home and listening to us right now and they qualify for the system, what's the process of applying? What should they do if they want to register?
At the ministry, the registration forms are there. We are looking at, it's on the second floor of the, I think the Rwans building, that's what you call it.
Commercial complex, yeah.
The commercial complex. It's on the second floor. The Ministry of Health is on the second floor where the former Attorney General Chambers, was situated. We are looking at the individuals in the office who are doing the registration. Sometimes you'll have individuals who cannot come up the steps and so on. We'll accommodate them by going down and, having them assist them in filling out the forms and so on and so forth. So I would encourage them, to go by the ministry, and they will be accommodated in order to get them registered. Because at the end of the day, we really and truly want to cover those folks so that there would be no need to take the tablet today and skip tomorrow and take one the other day. That is not applicable in order to be able to treat certain diseases and live a much healthier lifestyle. So we are working on that. It is something that the entire government should be proud of, and to thank the shops for, and for the general public, because medications, they're not cheap.
Honourable Joseph, can I ask a question? I know we're past our time, but I have a quick question. You made mention of those persons who are on Senior Shield over the age of 70. The existing Senior Shield does not, if you can get your medication at the government pharmacy, you usually have to pay full price at the private pharmacies. So this program was set up for those persons that do not qualify for Senior Shield.
Right.
And they are under the age of 70,
Right.
and they can access the medication for free at the private pharmacy.
I wouldn't say they're free. I don't like the
What
word
is it?
free. They can
That's
access
fine.
their medication that has already been paid for someone else.
Okay, yes.
It
Okay,
comes
so it wasn't
from-
free, but
from
it's paid
MedAccess.
for by someone else.
Yes, MedAccess.
Okay, right. So, but they can without any cost to them.
Yeah,
They can
those under
access the
70 years,
under
right,
70.
right.
So I am over 70. I'm on Senior Shield, but I can't access the medication at the government pharmacy. Do I get assistance if I go to the private pharmacy?
Not in phase one.
Okay. Okay.
Phase one is just to capture those less than 70
Yes.
years old,
Who
no
don't
insurance,
have any-
insurance at all.
Right. Okay.
When you say not in phase one, it sounds like there is ambition to cover them at some point in time.
But that's what I'm saying, the underinsured. And then we are approaching a number of pharmaceutical institutions and manufacturers to be able to provide the medication for, let's say, the public government pharmacy. Now, through no fault of no one at the government pharmacy, we run out of medication from time to time. We are part of the OECS, the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States Pharmaceutical Procurement Service, the PPS. That has its challenges, and it has had challenges now for decades. There is a meeting, the OECS PPS meeting for this year will be held in September in Montserrat. God's willing, I intend to attend that. I attended the last one in Grenada. I think it was November last year. Again, the challenges are there, and because of our small consumption in terms of population size, we usually, how should I describe it? We usually are much more affected than the other islands, because if you buy in bulk, you're going to get a better price. Okay, and with pharmaceuticals, you have the quality assurance, the quality testing, because there are a lot of scammers out there, so to speak, in terms of producing drugs and providing them at a cheaper cost. But the quality of the drugs must also be tested. That is why you have some drugs, in the U.S. system, they talk about FDA approval. It goes through a series of approvals to make sure that the quality assurance and the quality testing and quality controls are up to scratch. So we're working on that, whereby the public pharmacy will have a supply. Because one may ask, well, the hospital pharmacies are always running out of medication. How come the private pharmacy doesn't? They procure their drugs, their medication from a different source than PPS.
Understood.
Gotcha.
You see, so we're working on that, and God's willing, we'll have that sorted out as well.
Well, Honourable, thank you for the work that you're doing within health. Thank you for the work you're doing for the people of Angola. And I'd like to join you in thanking the Sharp family for their generous contribution to our nation and health.
Yes.
Now, as the Premier mentioned, it's past our time, and I know we've had a very, very long day between the House of Assembly and meetings that took place
And
after.
if you start to talk about health,
And I know you can go on all night, but we also do have a long day of cabinet tomorrow and a very early start. So I'll go to you first, Honourable Rogers. Do you have any final words you'd like to say before we close out today's edition of Just the Facts?
Well, in closing out today's edition of Just the Facts, I would want to place on record my appreciation for the stellar leadership that the Honourable Premier has given not only to her team, but to this country. What can I say? You continue the good works. Sometimes it needs the touch, a mother's touch, to keep some of the hormonal, the male hormonal levels in check. But thus far, I can say I truly appreciate it. I'm in a unique position to do that, because I would have been part of
From
several
2010.
administrations
Yeah,
before
yeah.
and so on and so forth. And we've got to work together to, continue to improve the young team that we have. I am proud of all of you, bring a number of different expertise to the table. To say to the people of Angola, it's not an easy job, but at the end of the day, we agree to disagree, and whatever we do it in the best interest of the vast majority of our people, because we can't please everyone. And again, to thank the Premier and the rest of the ministers and the rest of the team for a stellar job. And to say to some of the civil servants, when I get a little ragged on them, it is all for the good of the people of Angola. And, I can easily be led, but sometimes it has to make sense. And that was a message for the civil servants.
Well, on that note, I would like to join in commending our leader. You would have mentioned, Honourable Rogers, that you're in a unique perspective. You worked across many administrations, but as a first-time minister, and I know I'm not only speaking on behalf of myself, we truly do appreciate the leadership and the guidance that you offer and your approach. So, truly love working with the team. I look forward to continue working under your leadership. So, Premier, I'll give you the final word.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm going to go home with a full heart tonight, knowing that my approach is appreciated by the members of the team and by you who are here. I want to thank the people of Angola as well for giving us the opportunity to lead, to be able to take Angola in the direction that we see it needs to go. We need to look out for our children, our young people. We need to look out for the future of Angola. And every decision that we make is in the best interest of the people. And over the last year and 4 months that we have been in office, the people of Angola can see that those decisions have been for the best interests of all people. And so I want to also thank the people of my district, District Number 2. They have been there fully supportive of me since I first entered the political arena in 2010. And it has been some years, and I want to take this opportunity to thank them for their support, for their love, for their encouragement. And they are also hard taskmasters. And and so they keep my feet to the fire. I remain grounded. I always say what goes up must come down. And so at the end of the day, it's important that when we get into these positions, that we understand that we're here at the behest of the people, and we're here to do the people's work. And so once we put our best foot forward, once we work as hard as we can to deliver, the people will appreciate, and they have shown that appreciation so far. So thank you, District Number 2. Thank you to the people of Angola. Thank you to the members of this team. And I want to also thank the people behind the scenes who are here this evening. I will not call their names to protect the innocent or the guilty as they are. But I thank them for their hard work. They're here religiously every Tuesday night, working hard. And then during the week, there are all of the additional work that they have to do as well. And so I want to extend my appreciation to our media communications team and other persons who work behind the scenes to help them make it possible.
All right, well, on that note, this has been another edition of Just the Facts, and we'd like to thank the people of Angola for tuning in, and we wish you all a blessed night.